improve your voice and how to use that in worship leading. As an introduction, there's an app called SingScope, and it what happens is when you it's free and you sing into it, and it'll tell you what note you're singing and tell you if you're sharp or flat, and it kind of will level, like if you're singing a C, like and it'll say if you're flat or sharp, and if you go to a third above, whether you hit that note or not. Because sometimes when we're singing, we do what soloists do, is they scoop or they drop to a note, like Amazing Grace. And as a soloist, that works out okay, but when you do it together with a group, it's good to know exactly what you're doing and not do it too extremely. But let me give you a few tips just to begin with as an intro. Make sure that you're clearly heard, that the words are very important in communicating a message, and make sure that your sound system gets the voice out. That's why we do a sound check at the beginning, make sure everybody is heard clearly. And then lead strongly with the voice. People will follow the leader in dynamics, enthusiasm, and the melody line. And then don't stress out the voice before you sing. Drink water that is room temperature to warm, and don't scream, like the night before, yelling at a game or something might hurt your voice. And even a good night's rest the night before will strengthen the voice. If you don't like just regular water, I like this hint, which is flavored water. So that's one thing you can use. When singing while sitting, keep good posture, and that'll give you better projection. That sometimes happens when you're like in a Bible study and everybody's sitting down. You just want to make sure you're sitting up straight and not kind of slouching backwards. Sing songs in a key that's comfortable to most voices, and that's usually like from an A, just below middle C, to a D, 9 steps above middle C. And always remember to practice makes you better. You can be confident knowing that every time you sing correctly, you're going to improve. And so the next thing I want to talk about is parts of the vocal instrument. Like if you play trumpet, you want to know what the valves are, what the bell is, what the mouthpiece is, and with the guitar, the strings, all that stuff. So with voice, there's parts of the voice that you want to emphasize, and knowing those parts will help you be able to improve in each area. And so the first one are your breathing muscles. And another way of looking at it is the power and control. The power and control of your voice are the breathing muscles. Then there's the vocal cords, and that's also thought of as the vibrators. Vocal cords are like rubber bands, and so you stretch them and they get, you can go higher, and you loosen them. They go lower, and you can develop your range and get higher and lower as you do exercises developing those vocal cords. And then there's your head cavities, and these are the resonators, and that is what gives you a particular sound, particular voice, or a tone. Like both of my sons are about the same age, they're about 2 years apart, but when they're coming down the hall, even if my eyes are closed, they could say, "Hi, Dad," and I know who it is because of the tone. And that's what happens with your resonators. The sound comes from your power and control, from the breathing muscles, through the vibrators, and it resonates in your head, and it sounds particular because of the shape of your head and what kind of pockets you have in there, and it bounces around and then comes out, so that gives you a certain tone. Just like a guitar has different shapes. I have a jumbo-sized guitar, and some people have like what's called a dreadnought. It's a little bit smaller. There's a concert size, and there's even a small size, but they all have different tones because of the way the sound bounces around, and that's what your head cavities are, the resonators. Then the fourth thing is your lips, tongue, and your teeth, and they're also called the articulators. How to articulate well. Sometimes when you're singing in a big choir, some teachers will say, don't articulate too much because you want to hear the vowels more. So it ends up this sound kind of like He is Lord, He is Lord, and it sounds a little bit more full with the vowels, but you want to have the consonants in there too, so it's very clear. He is Lord, He is Lord. So you're using your lips, your tongue, and your teeth as the articulators. Then there's the regulators, which are the ears. And you can do exercises to tell whether you're sharp or flat, if you're too loud or too soft, how to harmonize with other people. It's good to be able to, when you're singing together with others, to listen and to blend. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. So ears are important. So the 5 parts of the vocal instrument, they kind of go like this. It goes from the breathing muscles to your vibrators, the vocal cords, and then it resonates in the resonators or the head cavities, and it comes out of your mouth and your lips, tongue, and teeth, do the articulation, and then the last thing are your ears, which you can hear whether it's in tune or not, and just how pleasant it sounds. Well, there's 6 points to good vocal production or improving vocally. The first point is good posture. And it's really important in order to sing correctly, that you don't squish your rib cage, but you want to have it expanded. So a couple things about that is you want to have your shoulders back about, let's say they're at 4 o'clock. So you have 12 o'clock is straight up, 3 o'clock is back, 6 o'clock is down, and 9 o'clock is forward. So go all the way around 12, 3, and 4 is where they should be. Just back a little bit to give a lot of room in your rib cage. Now, if you were to put your hands on your rib cage, I'm going to stand up a little bit. Put your hands on your rib cage like this. You can, when you take a breath, you can tell if it's expanding, like going. So try that with me. So just go, take a deep breath, and then feel like your rib cage is expanding. And then now let your breath out and see if that kind of goes in like this. Now you don't want your shoulders to go down. You don't want to go and then like this. You want it to be, your shoulders are back. Also, in good posture, you want to stand so that you have commanding presence. And one of the ways to do that is have one foot in front of the other, so that you rest, most of your weight is on the back foot and the front foot is forward just a little bit. And what that does is it prevents you from having the blood stop on your legs, and so you want to keep them bent a little bit, but you want to have your chest expanded and your shoulders back just a little bit, and pretend like there's a little string that's pulling your head up. So you're not going to be singing like this, but you're going to be singing with kind of at a tension, and that really will help as you sing. So one of the things with good posture and sitting also is when you sit, you want to have your back away from the chair when you're singing. Now, other than that, you can keep like this real comfy, but when you sing, move forward on the edge of the seat and have your shoulders back and have your rib cage expanded, and be able to give a push when you want to use that breath control. So that brings us to the second point. The first one is good posture. The second one is correct breath control. And with that, we want to be able to push. It's kind of like our lungs are like a pear, where the lower half is bigger and the top half is a little smaller. So when we take a breath, we want to breathe from our rib cage, not up here going, that's the smaller part of our lung. We want to go like this and expand like this. And so when you do, you want to push up like this. And there's different muscles. I'm not going to go into epigastrium muscle or your diaphragmatic muscle, but basically one brings your air in, the other one pushes it out. So what you want to do is use your muscles to bring in the air like this, and then push it out from the bottom first, like this. So you're not just going, taking the air in on top and then, like that. You want to be able to bring it fully in and then let it out. And sometimes you can hold a note for almost a minute. One exercise is taking a breath and just going, and then on an S, just like a tire is leaking or something. But usually the body, when you let a little air out at a time, it thinks you're breathing and you can last longer. And that's how you sing anyway. So it'd be like if I sang a song and I wanted to go, He is Lord. So I don't let it all out. So I'm not going, I don't let every bit of air out, but basically leave a little bit of room if you need to push it even more. All right, that's correct breath control. And then the third one is to relax. But actually, the point is that you want to have a relaxed jaw and your body. Now, I know when you're thinking about, okay, being at attention and your shoulders are back and you're standing the right way, and it's hard to relax. But you do want to relax so that when you're singing, it doesn't look like you're all tense. And same with your jaw. A lot of people don't drop their jaw when they sing, and so their teeth are together. And the problem with that is when I sing you usually have to drop your jaw a little bit, and when I say Father, I need to drop my jaw. So if you don't drop your jaw, and I say Father, without dropping my jaw, it sounds like Father. Even though I think I'm singing Father, it sounds more like Father unless you drop your jaw. Father. And so when you look at artists like Britney Spears or John Mayer, they do drop their jaw. And those are contemporary singers. When they're singing, it looks like, if next time you watch them, it looks extreme, but it actually helps enunciating. And that's what I do when I'm leading worship, is I make sure that my vowels are enunciated, I drop my jaw, and I stay relaxed too. I used to sing classical as well, and like a German song, the Erlkönig goes, Wer reitet so spät durch Nacht und Wind? And so sometimes people get really stiff with their jaw. And, Wer reitet so spät? So the idea is to relax, make it more natural looking and sounding when you're singing. The fourth point is an open throat. You want it to be open and back, like you're swallowing an egg. So that's not like sounding real nasally, kind of like Bob Dylan. You gotta serve somebody. Well, maybe the devil, maybe the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. So I don't have my throat open at all. It's coming all of my nose, right, like that. So if I wanted to go, He is Lord. So I'm dropping my jaw. My larynx is going back. The back of my throat is coming up. The soft palate is coming up. And so that's what opening the throat means. If you were to touch just the front part of your roof of your mouth, it's hard and you wouldn't bother you at all. But if you go a little further back in the soft palate, it makes you want to throw up. Just go, when you touch back there. That's the part you want to lift up a little bit, and you want your larynx to come down a little bit when you're opening your throat. And it makes it so those vowels really shine. And the next point is light and sweet tone. So once you open up your throat, you want to let things ring a little bit. And what makes our singing contemporary different than what is like more classical or opera style is there's some vocal trainers, but they would teach what's called leveling. And leveling is singing the way you sound. So if I go, open the eyes of my heart, Lord, sounds just like I'm talking. Of course, I talk with open throat too. I don't talk real nasally. There was a guy a long time ago named Jim Neighbors, and he would talk like this, but when he sang, it was really open and it was very beautiful. So that was so different. But usually when you're talking, you have a certain tone about it. It sounds real natural. And when you sing with that tone, it sounds really nice. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. But I'm still observing good posture, correct breath control, being relaxed, opening the throat. But there's a light and sweet tone. And now this is a little more imagined, but what you want to do is imagine that the tone is, it's kind of bouncing around in your head and coming out your eyes. Now, some people like to lift their eyebrows to make sure that you're in tune and you're singing sharp, but I don't like the visual aspect of that. But just imagining that you're singing through your eyes gives you a nice light and sweet tone. when you do that. Rather than a heavy, let's keep it low and it's coming out like down here. You want to keep it light and a sweet tone. And the last point is clear and natural articulation. You want to make sure that you say your words clearly so people can understand it. Matt Redman wrote a song called The Heart of Worship. And it goes, I'm coming back to the heart of worship. And it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. It's all about you. Well, so I realize that people do understand that and they know it's you, but it helps to be able to say, and it's all about you. It's all about you, Jesus. So you're being clear with what you say and people are able to understand it. Another song that I wrote called Stand Firm and Be Strong, I didn't pronounce it that clearly, and somebody thought, because I live near Stanford, they said, oh, Stanford man, be strong. And I was trying to say stand firm and be strong, but they thought I was singing Stanford man, be strong. So I had to be a little clearer on that. So the last thing is clear and natural articulation. And you can do exercises to like bumblebee, bumblebee, just to kind of get those consonants going and get the clarity there. Well, I used to teach college level. It's just 4 elements of sound. And as a vocalist, we want to try and work with those elements to make things sound expressive. So these are the 4 elements. There's volume, and that is like loud or soft. And you can have like a lion's roar that can be really loud, or it could be just a chirping of a bird that could be pretty soft. It could be a jet engine, which is very loud, or it could be even just a wind, a breeze that is rustling through the trees, very soft. And then there's also pitch, which is high and low. So you've got really high sounds like a bird chirping and really low sounds like the lion roaring. And with instruments, you have a piccolo, or you could have a tuba, which is very low in pitch. But that's the second element of sound, just whether it's high or whether it's low. And the third one is the quality of tone. And that has to do with, like we said before, a trebly or a bass kind of tone. Like on a radio, you have it sounds more trebly, chi 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 chi, or make it lower, bassy, and it's like, that's the kind of a tone thing. So if we want to have on a guitar a higher tone, more brighter, we would go towards the bridge, and it would be a little bit more trebly. And if you come away from the bridge, the tone's a little more medium, or not quite as bright. And so with our voice, we want to think about tone as well. What is our tone like? Each of us will have a little bit different tone, but do we want to have it a little more tinny, or do we want to have it a little more full sounding? That's something we're after. And the fourth thing is rhythm, or beat, or groove. And that is the organization of music or sounds. So you have like a train going by and it goes, well, that's a particular rhythm. And you can repeat that, or you can change it up if you want to do it in a particular song. But sometimes you'll have like a drip coming from a faucet that just goes, and that is a particular rhythm or a groove. So each of these we can kind of change a little bit. Like in a bridge, we can cut back in the volume so that we can have more room to build. And then with a pitch, sometimes there's a song called You Keep Hope Alive, and the whole first verse and chorus is an octave lower. You keep hope alive, you keep hope alive. But then the next verse, it goes an octave higher, and you keep hope alive. So it's much more dynamic at that point. And so using pitch helps as well. And using tone, using rhythm to change things up is really helpful. When you sing with other people, there's some things to keep in mind. This is not on the outline, but let me give you some common visible problems when you sing. And I noticed that one singer at our church was holding the microphone and holding their arm as well. So they were singing like this. I don't know if it was just a bad habit or it just looked like you weren't relaxed. So just want to make sure that when we sing relaxed. You're holding the microphone. I'm going to use this water bottle. So that the sound goes into the mic. We want to make sure it's not too low and not too high. We want people to see your mouth as you smile. And so we keep it just about an inch away, just underneath. So if you pop it by going, praise the Lord, you're not like going, praise the, and it just pops. So you go right over it. Praise the Lord, that type of a thing. And usually don't hold at the very bottom, because with a wireless, that's where the signal is coming from, and it might cause it to not catch sometimes. So hold it in the middle. That helps. Poor posture is one thing that could be a visible problem. A protruding jaw, or your chin turned up, your head too high, or your chin turned down too low. Raised or hunched shoulders like this, or kind of too much like this, that could be a distraction. Singing with a blank expression, saying, you know, what did we sing this morning? Like, joyful, joyful, we adore thee. You know, you want your face to say joyful, joyful. So a problem could be is that you're not singing with expression. A wrinkled forehead could be a distraction. A tongue which rises up. And I've seen this sometimes when people are singing, and the tongue comes out a little too far. Bulging neck muscles, or even a flushed face could be some physical things you see. Audible problems are nasality. Too much is coming out of the nose, or a tone lacking nasal resonance, where you're not singing through your nose at all. Almost sounds like you have a cold or something. And then another thing is a tight, pinched sounding tone, kind of like this. That doesn't sound very pretty. Or a throatiness, like it's just too far back in the throat. It doesn't sound natural. A strident quality, where you actually attack almost each note, like, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. It's a little too strident. A tremolo, that has to do with a too fast of a vibrato. A vibrato is nice sounding. He is Lord. What a vibrato does is it causes the air to change by volume, going louder and softer, and changing by pitch a little bit too. So it's, He is Lord. And you can make it extreme, where a tremolo is too fast. Lord. And then a wobble is when some people get older, they'll go, amazing grace. It's like you're starting a car or something, you know. And then lack of intensity could be another audible problem, and also noisy breathing. Sometimes if you can hear them breathe, you know, He is Lord, He is Lord. So, you know, just be careful about that. Now, when singing with others, here's a couple problems. There's faulty intonation, which means that one of you might be singing too high and the other one may be too low, and it sounds out of tune. So when you're singing with others, make sure you get some time together so that you're singing at the same pitch. Rhythmic instability, now that has to do with the end of a phrase or the rhythm. Some people might be going like in triplets, ta, 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 ta. And others have a difficult time with that, so they might just go ta, 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 ta. And the rhythm sounds different. So that's something to work on together so that it doesn't sound rhythmic instability. Another thing is poor phrasing. And that is starting soft, getting a little louder, and then getting softer. I noticed in watching a video of past singers that sometimes you sing the same note at the same volume the whole time. Let me see if one song we did today was and oh, I'm running to your arms, I'm running to your arms. So that's the same volume level, there's no phrasing. So it's like, and oh, I'm running to your arms. So you get a little louder and you get a little softer over either a measure or two measures, or maybe even four measures. Like, amazing grace. That's phrasing, where you start a little softer, get a little louder, and come back. So the way that would be a problem with singers, I mean, when you're with a choral group or an ensemble, you have to be together in that and decide, are we going to phrase it getting louder here or softer here? So you have to talk a lot about it. Other things are scooping and slurring. Make sure that you don't scoop, opposite each other. I mean, meaning like slurring is when you don't cut off a note and take a breath. So make sure you get the breaths at the right time too. And scooping, like, He is Lord, or Amazing. That's a big scoop. But if you can scoop a little bit when you're singing with others, but just make it more light, like Amazing Grace. So you get there quicker, and it doesn't seem as a problem. So a couple more things before we end. Just singing with others, it's good to have projection. It means go back to that correct breath control. You have your power and control, and pretend like you're singing to the back of the auditorium. So you don't want to be going, open the eyes of my heart, Lord, because only the front row will hear you. It's more like, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Even though you're amplified, you want to be able to sing it out so that they can pick that up. So the projection is important, and to do that a couple times, maybe when no one's around. And then blending and harmonizing. Harmonizing is not easy, and there's some videos that like Paul Balash and others give about how to do that a little better, thinking a third above. But if I'm singing Amazing Grace, someone could sing Amazing Grace. Now that's a third higher, and it sounds really pretty together. Let's have you sing the melody and just go, is this in your range? Amazing Grace. Can you sing that with me? Ready? Amazing Grace. I love it. Now I'm going to sing a third higher. Sing the same thing. Ready? Go. Amazing Grace. That's it. Yes. So that's singing a third above. And you can also sing a fifth above. And it usually sounds pretty that way. Most everybody opts to do the melody, but it's a little more creative to try and do the harmonizing as well, and that will help. Just one more thing is talking about confidence up front. Let me give you 10 points that'll help build your confidence, because sometimes it feels like it's scary to be in front of people. So one thing is consciously talk to God before you sing. Say, I'm feeling a little nervous, Lord. Give me the energy I need for this. Just talk to God about it so that you feel a little bit more like He's with you. Second thing is obtain experience in singing publicly. You can sing at birthday parties or sing for your family. You can actually do poetry, in classes, or volunteer to speak, read things. That really helps. Anything you can do to give you experience in public speaking or singing gets you over the jitters of being up front. It's nice that you're doing acting too. That is like a major thing in front of people that gets over, that nervousness. Another thing is make thorough preparation. Think ahead. What are you singing? And what are the words? What's the tune? What's the sequence of verse, chorus, order? And listen to it. If there's a YouTube video along it, listen to it a little bit so you get used to it and you feel more confident because you're prepared. And then the fourth thing is, if you're tense or nervous, breathe deeply several times and relax before attempting to sing. When we had our firstborn, we went through a thing called Lamaze, and you had to take a deep breath as my wife was pregnant, and it's one of the things that to calm you down is to just go. And it does something to your system. Try that with me. Just take a deep breath and then let it out slowly. They call that a cleansing breath. And sometimes that really helps before you sing. You're sitting in the pew. You don't want to make noise doing it, but but it is a way to help your confidence. And help you relax a little. Fifth thing is have an optimistic I can attitude. Now, I'm a person that sees the cup half full, and there's others that see the cup half empty, and they're always thinking, oh, I'm going to make a mistake. Something's going to go wrong for sure. But don't start with that. Start with, it's going to work out well. I'm going to succeed in this. And that optimistic I can attitude will help you in your confidence. The sixth thing is realize that insecurity is a ghost. Think of it more as, God is going to work it out for good. And if you have to imagine anything, imagine something good happening. But realize that insecurity is a ghost, and you could know that God's going to lead you in that. And then 7, concentrate on interpretation or the projection of beauty and the meaning in the song. Trying to make what you're singing more beautiful. That'll help in your confidence too. Don't worry about what you look like. Don't worry if people are just staring at you and they're not really engaged. Just think about, what am I singing? How do I make this beautiful for the Lord? And just do the best you can. The 8th thing is build a more than adequate technique for the demands of public singing. That means you do some exercises that help build your range, so you can sing higher, you can sing lower. Do some exercises that help with your volume to be a little louder. Those kind of things help build an adequate technique. And 9, discipline natural and confident actions, deliberate speech, commanding posture, and stage presence. Now, when I'm in front of people, at first, I couldn't even sing and play the guitar at the same time. When I put the guitar down, then I didn't know what to do with my hands. So here I am, a vocalist singing in a choir, and I didn't, do you put your hands together? What do you do? So I had to look in the mirror and sing some songs and see what I was doing with my hands. And once in a while, I might go like this, or I might have, raise a hand like this to the Lord. But just I got more deliberate with my hand motions, and it wasn't as goofy looking, with my hands just dangling. So kind of working on that a little bit to feel more confident. What are you doing with your hands, and how are you expressing yourself with those? Holding a mic does have a nice aspect about that too. And the last thing is help conquer insecurity in singing through experience and related feels. So I hope this is encouraging. There's a lot that you can go over, and a lot of you have had a lot of experience already in singing. It'll just help us get better in what we do in leading worship. So thank you for joining.